Hello everyone, my name is Akal and I am a somatic therapist as well as an astrological counselor. If you'd like to find out a little bit about the work I do, you can check out my website, which I have posted down below this video. So today's topic is a topic I kind of feel like is, I've kind of beat this one to death in some of my other videos, but it just simply bears repeating. A lot of the specific points I'm going to make in this video, if you've seen my other videos, it's going to be a little bit redundant. However, what I've attempted to do in this video is to, well, this one as well as the second video that's part of this overall sort of picture, what I'm attempting to do is attempting to illustrate to men who constantly give me pushback on a lot of these ideas. And one of the reasons that men give me pushback about these ideas, well, there's a couple different reasons, and I don't want to speculate too much about it, but men are very, very, very connected to their ejaculations. Men are very, I guess, conditioned to sort of deal with the horny feeling in a way in which we try to dispense with it as quick as possible because we can't handle the pressure. Now, the thing is that pressure that's associated with the horny feeling is absolutely essential. And this is what I intend to illustrate during the course of these next two videos. So with this video, what I want to go over is this idea of making love to life. And what I mean by making love to life has to do with, well, let me convey a simple story. So when I was about 28, 29, 30, maybe 30 years old, I remember going to the woods. And just to kind of back this up a little bit before then, when I was a child, even though I was raised Catholic, etc., the woods were my church. That was the place where I felt most connected to some force, call it God, call it the universe, call it source, call it infinity, call it whatever you wish. But it was in the woods that I felt these mystical kind of connections. It was a sense of merger with the environment around me. And the brilliant thing about that is that it was very much a conscious merger, and it was a merger that felt safe. And this is something that I think a lot of men struggle with, and a lot of women for that matter, which is during this process of wanting to merge with a partner is we often don't feel safe on a deep sort of level. Now, the reason we don't feel safe sometimes has to do with the fact that we are not connected to our bodies. And so being that we were not connected to our bodies, we're also cut off from sensation. We're cut off from pleasure. We're cut off from a number of things. So going back to this story when I was 28 years old or so, I remember going to the woods, and a beautiful place, beautiful patch of woods, and I'm sitting in the woods, and all of a sudden I start crying. I lost my shit. I was just like crying and crying and crying and crying. And then it dawned on me why I was crying. The reason I was crying had to do with the fact that I felt numb. I felt disconnected from my environment. And that numbness was, I think at that point in my life, even though I've experienced a great deal of suffering, from my childhood, etc., that numbness at that moment was the greatest suffering that I've ever experienced. And the reason, again, had to do with the fact of it had nothing to do with the fact that I was cut off from the woods necessarily. It had to do with the fact that I felt cut off from life. And that's significant. Remember, we come into this life, point A to point B, from birth to death, to live and experience. So if your experience of life is that of numbness or disconnect or a sort of detachment, then it just has no value on some level. So, and I think, if you look at suicide rates, etc., I think if you look at this, I would say that my experience is actually relatively common. I just don't think a lot of men have maybe the words to describe what it is they're experiencing, or they may not even have a clue what it is they're experiencing, because this numbness that sets in is very much part of the conditioning of our culture. So, going back to this idea of making love to life, what that really means is it means to sensitize and to connect and to feel safe in life. Now, one of the things that a man needs to do as a first step is he needs to understand what is his conditioning. Well, we're conditioned through work, through school, we're conditioned through the society we live in, we're conditioned through different things. But the majority of this energy, the majority of this conditioning, and this goes back, hundreds and thousands of years probably, the conditioning essentially has always been to externalize male energy. Now, the reason why this conditioning occurs is because male energy naturally externalizes. So look at the male genitals. It points out. Female genitals points in. So, and again, these are kind of massive generalizations. I do understand this. But if you want to understand how the man's energy flows, if you just let it be instinctually, it flows outward. A man ejaculates, it moves out. The energy connected to that ejaculation moves out. So with a woman, it's different. The genitalia moves inward, and the orgasms tend to be implosive as opposed to explosive. So this implosive orgasm that women experience, they can have multiples. And why can't men have multiples? Because we discharge one time and it's done. Again, the energy is all being directed out. So what we have to realize, and I think the definition of insanity is you do something over and over again and expect a different result. So men who've come to me who are like, oh, I want to have multiple orgasms, I want to do this, I want to do that, but they're unwilling to commit time and effort to a practice, you're never rewiring your nervous system to the point where it's necessary in order to redirect that energy of orgasm inward and upward. Like I said, it always just goes bloop, bloop, right out. So the first step, in my opinion, to, reconditioning ourselves so that we can make love to life and to experience multiple orgasms, etc., the first thing the man needs to do is he needs to look at how he's living. What are your lifestyle choices you're currently making? If you're drinking in excess, sorry, it's not going to work. Alcohol is inherently destructive for the body. It destroys the liver. It destroys the body's ability to operate efficiently as well as to release toxins. So any toxin buildup, stress on the liver, etc., it's going to deplete the energy, deplete your overall energy reserves. And again, multiple orgasms are energy. It's energy in motion. So if you don't have enough pressure to move that energy and to get it in motion, you can forget about multiple orgasms. So that's one thing. Your diet, that's a consideration. Doing things on an empty stomach, spiritual practices on an empty stomach versus doing them on a full stomach. You're going to have much more effect if, let's say, you make love with an empty stomach, you're going to have a stronger orgasm because some amount of energy is being sent for the process of digestion. So again, what I generally recommend to men is to make love with an empty stomach. Or if you're doing self-pleasure, again, same idea, do it on an empty stomach. So what else? We have drugs, very much like alcohol. It's about buildup of toxins, depletion, and I won't go into the entheogens, the hallucinogens, things like that, which can be helpful. That's a different video. Something else, worry. So if you're spinning on things mentally, it's exhausting. And again, if you're spinning on things mentally, it means you're not centered. If you're not centered, where does the energy go? Out. So let's see what else we have. The semen discharge itself. So when you ejaculate, there's naturally a depletion. And that's going to bring me into kind of the next little area I want to talk about a little bit, which is this idea that the yogis and the Tantra people and Taoists, they always make this comment about a man losing his root when he ejaculates. Well, this root that we're losing essentially, and I wish they would have rephrased this because it was incredibly cryptic when I first attempted to understand what they were saying. But the idea of losing a root means that you become detached from your body. Now this detachment, people go, oh, what do you mean? I'm in my body all the time, right? No, you're not. Most of us are not. The reason we are not is the ego is essentially a collection of impressions. It's a collection of your past experiences, of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your feelings. And so the thing is is that this is all essentially disembodied in a lot of ways. The mind essentially exists out here in the field. Thoughts, memories, things like that, those are stored in the electromagnetic body. They're not stored in the brain. So the brain has all the neurocircuitry, but the actual impressions, the thoughts, the memories, etc., those are all in the field. So what I'm suggesting here is that when you are in ego, when you are not centered, you are out here. And so if you are out here and you're attempting to have a sexual experience, to have multiple orgasms, whatever you're attempting to do, when you ejaculate, where does the energy go? It goes out. So it will always serve you if you can enter into a sexual experience as centered as possible. So do some breathing, do some moving, exercises, etc. Things that are going to get you in that sort of feeling and sensing space where you feel more connected to your body. Because if you do this, you'll notice that the orgasm upon ejaculation will be, I guess, less depleting ultimately. So this brings up the kind of like the most important issue here. So one is the cultivation of new pathways. That I'm going to go into a little more in the second video, which has to do with the techniques in order to cultivate these pathways. These pathways are in your nervous system. They're in your sort of your subtle body's energy channels, which are essentially the connective tissue in the body. And one other thing that's incredibly important here, again, is this idea of where is your focus? Where is your attention? The story here is that energy will follow your attention. So where you place your attention, your focus, your concentration is where energy is going to flow. So if I put all my energy and awareness on my right index finger, all the energy will go to, well, not all, a lot of the energy will go to that right index finger. I mean, this requires some amount of concentration for some period of time, but this is a truth. So, and again, because this is something that's incredibly empowering to understand, is that the most dominant feature in your entire life, the most dominant force in your entire life, is how you, the personality, inhabit the form. And how centered are you, and how are you moving towards that sort of notion of merger or union with the body, which is essentially what that means is that your inner world matches your outer expression, authenticity. So it's a continuum. Spirit flows through you and it flows out. And it's this beautiful kind of cyclical thing that happens. It's totally unself-conscious, it's totally non-critical, it's totally non-judgmental. It's simply energy flows through and out. And it directs you towards what I would consider something really important for everyone to understand, which is what's motivating you to do the things you're doing. If you have an external authority, which is, again, the culture we grew up in, is an external authority. It says you have to go to school. Our parents represent an external authority. The workplace represents an external authority. Government, social networking, whatever it may be. If you are basing your decisions on that external authority, in all likelihood, you're not behaving authentically. And again, that's not 100% true. Again, if your inner authenticity, if you're feeling, you're sensing, says, oh, I should do what this social network says, then obviously there is some authenticity there. But the idea is to be motivated through your intuition, your instincts. That is your inner authority. So you could say your gut instinct, that would be like an example of an inner authority. So something else that can short circuit your path towards making love to life, that would be your belief. That would be anxieties, beliefs, issues around sexual performance in general are going to block. It's an interesting thing is that a lot of men who have sexual performance issues, let's say, premature ejaculation is a really good example, it actually makes it worse the more you focus on it. So a really important key factor in men who have sexual performance issues, again, specifically premature ejaculation in this case, is to not focus on your own sensations, to redirect your attention, your focus on the person you are with. Or let's say you're in the act of making love, redirect your focus to your buttocks and the sort of squeezing motion that you're using as you're thrusting with your pelvis, not on your penis. The energy around the penis in most cases of premature ejaculation is excessive. It's a high tension area. This energy is so built up and so congested that it just wants to blow out. And oftentimes that's something that's really helpful and needed, but the problem is it doesn't really resolve the overall issue. So the overall issue has to do with needing, in that particular case, needing to, redirect your efforts. And again, this idea that if you do something over and over again and expect a different result, that's insanity. So in this case, if you're premature ejaculating, if you keep worrying about it and you keep making love in the same way and you keep doing everything the same way, well, this is going to be a chronic issue for a long time. So it really has to do with needing to shift your perspective about your challenges. So, let's say beliefs around whether you're a good lover or a bad lover. And I know I'm asking a lot here, is that you have to let go of these beliefs. You have to simply enter into, whether it's self-pleasure or sex or whatever it is, enter it into it openly. And that's something else that can kind of, like I said, help with this flow of energy. Because, again, the more open, the more centered you are. And again, this is the last thing I'm going to mention on this topic before the next video, is this idea of surrender. So the deeper you can kind of surrender into an experience in a sort of unself-conscious way, the more likely this energy will simply flow. But again, you have to be in a sort of feeling and sensing space. You have to be in a place of having done some practices so this energy is cultivated so that it can then move inward and upward. And again, it's Mantak Chia came out with a book, I think in the 1980s or whatever it was, maybe early 90s, where he talked about men having the capacity to have multiple orgasms. And it's the truth. It's an absolute truth. I've had many multiple orgasmic experiences, but the only reason I've had those experiences, a couple of them happened spontaneously, but the vast majority of the time, the reason I had these experiences had to do with the fact that I was practicing Kundalini Yoga, the fact that I was meditating, the fact that I was doing practices which helped me center. So with all that said, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. And so like I said, the next video, I'm going to go into some more kind of practical techniques and application of those techniques, how to do the techniques, etc. So with all that said, thank you much.